when snow fell on Namsan. It was the first snowfall of the season in Seoul. The streets shimmered with a soft blanket of white, and Namsan Tower stood tall like a silent witness to the city's unfolding stories. Somewhere at the base of the hill, a young woman named Jisoo stood alone, staring up at the tower, with a small smile tugging at her lips. Jisoo was in her late 20s, with shoulder-length brown hair that curled slightly at the ends, fair skin that seemed to glow in the winter light, and soft features that held a quiet strength. Her eyes, deep and thoughtful, often seemed lost in memories. She wore a long cream-colored coat, a mustard scarf wrapped loosely around her neck, and her gloved hands clutched a folded note. It had been exactly 1 year. 1 year since Minjin, the man she once loved, had walked beside her up the steps of Namsan Park. He was tall, lean, with a gentle smile that could disarm even the most guarded heart. His jet black hair was always slightly touched, his dark eyes filled with an intensity he never voiced out loud. That day, under the golden autumn leaves, he had told her he'd return.
"Meet me here, same day, same place, 1 year from now,"
he'd whispered as the wind carried his words, like a secret. But Minjin never said why he had to leave. The days that followed were a blur of unanswered messages, missed calls, and silence. Jisoo waited for a week, then a month, then 6. Eventually, she stopped waiting outwardly. But deep inside, something quietly held on. Now, standing at the foot of the hill again, snowflakes beginning to fall like a soft lullaby from the sky, Jisoo took her first step up toward Namsan Tower. Every step echoed with memory. The bench they once sat on, the street vendor where he had bought her hot, the laugh they shared under the lantern-lit path. The city below buzzed with life, but up here, it was as if time stood still. When she finally reached the viewing deck, she was alone. Except, not entirely. There was someone leaning against the railing, staring out at the glittering cityscape. He wore a dark coat, his hands in his pockets, his posture calm. Jisoo's heart stumbled. She didn't want to hope, but her feet moved on their own. As she drew closer, the man turned. It wasn't Minju, it was Seojin. He had been Minjin's best friend. Kind, steady, always in the background. They had only met a few times, but she remembered his thoughtful eyes. Tonight, those eyes widened in gentle surprise.
"You came,"
he said softly, snow dusting his hair. Jisoo blinked, confused. "You're here." Seojin nodded, pulling out a small envelope from his coat.
"Minjin wanted me to give this to you, in case he couldn't make it."
Her breath caught. He handed her the envelope without another word, and as she opened it with trembling fingers, Minjin's familiar handwriting greeted her.
"Jisoo, if you're reading this, I wasn't able to come back. I never told you why I left, because I didn't want you to wait for someone who might never return. I was sick and I thought I could fight it. But if I failed, I wanted you to remember me. Not for the goodbye I never said, but for the love we shared. Don't keep your heart closed. When you look up at this tower, I hope you smile, knowing someone once loved you deeply. And maybe someone else will too."
Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain, but release. She asking to Seojin, who was watching her with quiet empathy. "You knew?" He nodded.
"He was my best friend. I stayed away because he asked me to. But tonight, I felt like I should be here. For him, for you."
The wind whispered between them. Jisoo stepped back, standing in front of him. "It's strange," she said quietly. "I thought I'd be shattered reading this, but I feel calm." They stood in silence for a while, two people bound by memory, yet warmed by the snow. Seojin turned to her.
"Do you want to grab a coffee? There's a little place just down the hill. It's warm, and they have your favorite vanilla latte."
She blinked. "You remember?" He smiled, shyly.
"I remember everything about that day."
They walked side by side, descending from the tower together. The snow continued to fall gently, like a blessing from above. And somewhere in the quiet folds of Jisu's heart, something began again, not the return of a past love, but the slow blooming of a new one. And Namsan Tower watched over them, as it always did, silent, steady, and filled with stories.